Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Hello again everybody, I'm Matt Robinson, and welcome to another exciting edition of the League Wraparound. This is the program that gets you caught up on anything and everything happening around the National Football League. Coming up on this edition of the program, we'll preview Week 7's most important games in the NFL, including Thursday Night Football between the Denver Broncos versus the New Orleans Saints, and Monday Night Football with the doubleheader between the Baltimore Ravens versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Los Angeles Chargers versus Arizona Cardinals. And of course, we have your Week 7 game picks. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Before we preview Week 7's most important games, let's recap Week 6's most important games in the NFL. Thursday Night Football saw the San Francisco 49ers beat the Seattle Seahawks in a thrilling NFC West matchup. San Francisco would win 36-24. The Jacksonville Jaguars took on the Chicago Bears in the NFL International Series in London. Chicago would win 35-16. We also had the Washington Commanders take on the Baltimore Ravens. Very close game in the Battle of the Beltway, but the Ravens would hold on to win 30-23. We had the Arizona Cardinals take on the Green Bay Packers. This was no contest. The Packers would hold on to beat the Cardinals 34-13. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers took on the New Orleans Saints in the NFC South showdown. In his first career NFL start, Spencer Rattler was decent in the beginning, but this was a wild game back and forth. But Tampa Bay, second half, they came out blazing saddles. Buccaneers would win 51-27. The Detroit Lions took on the Dallas Cowboys, and this was not a contest by any stretch of the imagination. The Lions would win 47-9. We'll get more into details into that game in just a little bit. Also, we had Sunday Night Football with the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the New York Giants. Defensive showdown. The only offensive touchdown in this game was by Joe Burrow. Burrow scored a rushing touchdown, giving the Bengals a 17-7 win over the Giants. And Monday Night Football was a wild one. After the firing of head coach Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich is the interim head coach. Nathaniel Hackett remains the offensive coordinator, but the play calling duties go to Todd Dowling. Jets offense, very solid much of the first half, but the second half, they were hurt by missed field goals, crazy penalties, and of course, Aaron Rodgers throwing the interception with over 2 minutes left in the game after receiver Mike Williams slipped on a route. Josh Allen and his team did enough for Buffalo to beat the Jets at MetLife Stadium. Final score, Buffalo 23, New York 20. And those were the scores from your most important games in the NFL. All right, as always, I like to start off with my top 3 storylines. I like to start off talking about Davante Adams. So as you heard me mention earlier, the Jets losing a tough one this past Monday night to the Buffalo Bills, 23-20. Aaron Rodgers throws an interception. Pass was intended for Mike Williams. Williams slipped on the route. Bills defensive back Taron Johnson intercepted it. That sealed the deal for Buffalo. So since Aaron's short time in New York, he has been aggressively recruiting Davante Adams. If you know about the history with Aaron and Davante, that quarterback wide receiver duo, for a good 5 years together, they put up some monster numbers together. And it was going to happen sooner rather than later. Well, immediately a day after the Monday night loss to Buffalo, Woody Johnson made it happen, orchestrating a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders, with the Raiders trading Adams to the New York Jets in exchange for a 2025 conditional third-round pick that could become a second-round pick if Adams is an all-pro or if he's active for the AFC Championship game or this year's Super Bowl that will be in New Orleans. So bottom line is this. Rodgers and Adams, they reunite. So much has happened with the New York Jets. I mean, when aren't things happening with the New York Jets, right? I mean, it's never a dull moment in the New Jersey Meadowlands. So you have Rodgers that arrives with the team last year. Then Rodgers suffers the Achilles, done for the year. Then there's the whole circus of quarterbacks that you had last year dealing with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Mike White and company. And so you have a new year. Rodgers returns from the injury, doesn't show up for training camp, goes overseas in Africa to Egypt and do his thing. Hassan Reddick, not happy with the contract, requesting a trade. There's reports that he could be dealt again, and there's some other reports that he may stay in New York. Well, we'll see how that all pans out. So then the Jets not playing their best football. Robert Saleh is fired. Out goes Saleh. In comes Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, who's the interim head coach. Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator, but has his play calling duties removed. Todd Dowling is the new play caller. Then they lose a tough one on Monday night, which was a winnable game for the Jets, if not for the penalties and missed field goals and other things that happened in this game. And now you bring Davante Adams. Boy, what a time to be alive, and certainly what an interesting time to be a New York Jets fan. But Davante Adams is reunited with Aaron Rodgers. He's at practice, and everything seems to be a go for Davante, and he will play in the Sunday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, Davante Adams traded to the New York Jets. And the Raiders in return will get a 2025 conditional third-round pick that could become a second-round pick if Adams, again, is an all-pro or if he's active for the AFC Championship game or this year's Super Bowl. To add on just to the first storyline, so we had the trade involving Davante Adams with the New York Jets and the Las Vegas Raiders. The Buffalo Bills, the team that beat the New York Jets this past Monday night. Buffalo struck gold getting a wide receiver, getting Amari Cooper. So the Cleveland Browns, they traded Amari Cooper in a 2025 sixth-round pick to Buffalo in exchange for a 2025 third-round pick and a 2026 seventh-round pick. This is big for Buffalo. Stephon Diggs traded in the offseason to the Houston Texans. You know, the last several years in Buffalo, Stephon put up monster numbers, but you know him and Josh Allen, they had their differences back and forth. We know how that all turned out, right? So finally, Buffalo made the decision to trade Stephon to Houston and getting some draft picks in return. Well, now Buffalo gets a big-time receiver, and they get Amari Cooper. And this is huge because so far this year, there hasn't been really a big receiver that has stepped up for Buffalo. There's been pockets. We've seen Keon Coleman. He's had spurts, but he hasn't had any big games, but he's operated in spurts. Dalton Kincaid, he's operated in spurts. He's been solid. You know, Khalil Shakir, he's been solid as well, but they haven't had that big play receiver to really be like, okay, this person is the alpha, and then everybody else is going to come in and contribute. Amari Cooper is going to come in to this whole Buffalo situation, and he is going to make an immediate impact. That was the missing piece on that offense, a big play receiver. And Josh Allen has got to be happy right now with what's happened during the week. You get the win in New Jersey over the Jets on Monday night. And while the Jets made a big play to get Davante Adams, your team, Josh's team, the Buffalo Bills, land a big one with Amari Cooper. And Amari has been one of the best in the league since he's arrived in the NFL during the time when the Raiders were in Oakland and his time with the Dallas Cowboys. He's always put up solid numbers, and I know he is going to light it up now that his teammate, his quarterback, is Josh Allen. So if I had to give grades on these trades, I would say that the New York Jets get a B plus for getting Devontae Adams because it's going to help their offense out significantly. If they could just stay consistent with the running game, and not only will I know Devontae he's gonna get his, but I really believe that Garrett Wilson is gonna benefit from the veteran leadership of a Devontae Adams. Alan Lazard is already there, so you've already got the Green Bay connection, not just with Aaron and Devontae, but also Allen as well. And Devontae's presence will also rub off heavily on Brees Hall and Braylon Allen, who are the running backs for the Jets. So trade grades, the Jets get a B plus. Buffalo, they get an A plus because that was the one thing that they needed. They needed that big play receiver that could replace Stephon Diggs, and Amari Cooper is going to definitely do that. Stephon Diggs, great player. Amari Cooper, great player. And also what this does is that it's less problems, less distractions, less complaints. It's more of a focus, and Buffalo is definitely going to benefit tremendously from a wide receiver play of Amari Cooper. My next storyline is going to be Jerry Jones. So you know about the Dallas Cowboys owner, president, general manager, Jerry Jones. Never a dull moment. Has his own locker where he does post-game press conferences after every game. It's very interesting. But Jerry's been the owner of the team since 1989. And you know about the back-to-back Super Bowls with the head coach that he hired, Jimmy Johnson. There was friction that Jerry and Jimmy, you know how that went down, right? That they had that crack in their relationship for many decades. Jerry wanted to take credit for it. His ego got the best of him. Jimmy parted ways with him, wound up becoming the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Jerry gets another Super Bowl with head coach Barry Switzer, but within the last decade or so, last couple of decades, I could say, Jerry has made some very interesting decisions and not for the better. So before the season had started, quarterback Dak Prescott and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, they received long-term contracts. And a lot of people, a lot of broadcasters, a lot of podcasters, a lot of Cowboy fans, a lot of football fans have questioned not only those decisions, but also a big decision that I was a little puzzled behind with them not signing Derrick Henry during the offseason. And Jerry claimed that they didn't have enough money to sign Derrick, but Derrick was willing to take a sizable discount to play for the Cowboys. That didn't happen. Well, this week, Jerry Jones got himself into some more trouble. He appeared on a local radio station in Dallas, 105.3 The Fan, and he got into an argument with local radio hosts, and they were just asking him questions about the questionable decision making of the team, such as not being aggressive in the offseason, the issues going on with head coach Mike McCarthy, the contract extensions, that the long-term deals that were given to Dak Prescott and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. And he told the radio station, quote, he doesn't have time for looking back on decisions, and that he'll get somebody else to ask these questions moving forward. And then again, he also went into this whole tirade about getting into it with them. He was questioning the radio hosts, which they were doing their job. They had every right to question Jerry about decisions that were made during the offseason, not being aggressive in trying to get Derrick Henry, not trying to draft or sign players at much needed positions. And this is just, Jerry, he has to, he's at some point, he's going to have to continue to do the business, continue to sign the contracts, get the deals done. But when it comes to football things, leave it to other personnel in that organization. He hasn't done a great job of doing that, man. And it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. But, when you have ego and you have power and things of that nature, There's not much you can tell people, right? I mean, hey, he's the owner, president, and general manager of the franchise. But again, Jerry Jones, never a dull moment. The Dallas Cowboys, the soap opera that never ends, man. It just continues. And for my last storyline, the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. The last time the 49ers and the Chiefs met was on February 11th of 2024, which was Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. And you talk about a thrilling game, an exciting game, a game that went to overtime with the Kansas City Chiefs doing their thing, pulling it off, winning their second straight Super Bowl, going back to back. That was a game. That was a thrilling game for the ages. And a lot of people, including myself, one of the best Super Bowls that was ever played. And these two teams are going to lock up again this weekend in what promises to be an exciting game. Patrick Mahomes going up against Brock Purdy. Patrick, in that Super Bowl game, passed for over 300 yards. Brock Purdy played in an efficient game. Jawan Jennings scored a receiving touchdown, and he threw for a touchdown pass. Christian McCaffrey got it done running and receiving. There was very little George Kittle in this game. But, man, Isaiah Pacheco, he turned up big, especially in the fourth quarter and going into that overtime period. And, of course, a tight end by the name of Travis Kelce, right? He was pretty good in this game, too. But Chiefs and the 49ers. The Chiefs, I guess you could say they're the New England Patriots of the 2000s, the Midwestern version of the Patriots. The Chiefs, likable, fun-loving. Mahomes and Kelce on just about every commercial that you watch on television or you listen to on the radio. Andy Reid has had his share of endorsements. And a famous pop star is connected with this team as well. All of the Swifties. Yeah, they're on board with the Kansas City Chiefs. And you've got a team in the 49ers that they play hard, they play physical, is no nonsense. And again, these two teams are fun to watch. This is going to be exciting in the Bay Area. And I firmly believe that this could match or maybe supersede what happened back in February at the big one in Las Vegas. But Chiefs and 49ers, this is going to be a little bit different. And I'll go more into detail when we preview Week 7's most important games. But 49ers and Chiefs, this is expected to be a thrilling game. All right, so before we preview Week 7's most important games in the NFL, just some injury news to pass along to you for those that watched the game or heard about the Lions and Cowboys game. Defensive end Aiden Hutchinson is going to be out indefinitely due to suffering a broken tibia. Aiden suffered the injury in the third quarter after sacking Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. And the injury was so bad that Fox did not air the replay of that injury. But again, Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end for the Detroit Lions, suffered a broken tibia and is expected to be out indefinitely. And he had the surgery. And for those that watched that game, including myself, it was that injury looked very nasty, man, and it was very tough. But again, Hutchinson suffered the injury in the third quarter when he sacked Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. We wish Hutchinson all of the best in his recovery. And it's going to be some time because the Lions are, that's a big piece of their plan to try to win a Super Bowl or at least get to the playoffs and try to at least get back to the NFC Championship. That Hutchinson injury hurts, and certainly our thoughts and prayers are with him as he tries to get back to recovery, and the Lions try to pick up the pieces and try to fill that void while he's hurt. All right, now it's time to preview Week 7's most important games in the NFL. Thursday Night Football has the Denver Broncos going up against the New Orleans Saints. A lot of people marked this game on their calendar, and rightfully so. Just the whole sentimental nature of this game. Sean Payton, the current head coach of the Denver Broncos, in his second year in Denver. But you know about the great seasons he's had in New Orleans, also the controversial seasons that he had in New Orleans. Still very much a part of the fabric and the culture, not only of the city, but of that organization as well. Sean arrived in New Orleans during one of the darkest times, not just in the city's history, but in all of America's history after Hurricane Katrina. Him, along with Drew Brees, and then later drafting Reggie Bush, building that team. And for a good 6-7 year run, they were really at the top of the heap, not just in the NFC, but really in the NFL. And of course, winning Super Bowl 44 during the 2009 season in Miami. So it's going to be an emotional game, really, for both teams. The Saints coming off a bad loss from the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last Sunday night in the Superdome. For the Broncos, losing a tough game to their AFC West division rival, Los Angeles Chargers. So this game is going to be about the rookie quarterbacks. Bo Nix going up against Spencer Rattler. Bo has a strong arm. He's accurate, but he's very athletic. But you can see the rookie mistakes periodically. Spencer Rattler, he had flashes in the first half in last week's game against the Bucks, but second half, it just went downhill. He didn't make enough plays to go down the field to try to lock up with Rashid Shaheed and also Jawan Johnson, just to name a few. So there's so many storylines in this game. We know all about Sean Payton and him coming back to New Orleans. We know that's a storyline within itself. But also there's a storyline in New Orleans. A lot of people calling for Dennis Allen's job. Mickey Loomis, the general manager of the team, he remains committed to keeping Dennis Allen, which has a lot of fans and a lot of broadcasters and a lot of people scratching their heads saying why. But nevertheless, you've got Bo Nix, you've got Spencer Rattler, you've got Alvin Kamara, you've got Rashid Shaheed. Chris Olave suffered a concussion in the game against the Bucks. I don't know what his status is going to be for this game, but Denver, an athletic quarterback, but Denver's defense has really been strong this year, one of the best in the league, and that could pose problems for the Saints rookie quarterback. So it's going to be an emotional night in New Orleans at the Caesars Superdome with the Denver Broncos going up against the New Orleans Saints. The NFL International Series in London with the New England Patriots going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So for the Patriots, embarrassed by the Houston Texans, Drake May in his first career NFL start had a decent game, but New England is just basically going through the motions right now on the offensive side. They've had a tough first 6 weeks of the year thus far, dealing with off the field issues with Jabril Peppers and not having really any identity, especially on the offensive side. Jacoby Brissett was the starting quarterback. They decided to give Drake May, the rookie, a shot, and they lost bad to Houston last week. And they're going to be heading across the pond in London to take on a team that lost in London last week to the Chicago Bears, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is going to be the second straight game in London for Jacksonville. So the Jaguars hope to turn it around. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence looking for a better performance. Christian Kirk and company are looking for a better performance as well. Doug Peterson, his job is on the line as well as in Jacksonville. So this is an important game for both of these teams, primarily for Jacksonville. New England, again, going through the motions. They're going to have their rookie quarterback, Drake May, in London. We'll see how he pans out against this Jacksonville defense. But we've got the International Series in London with the New England Patriots going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The next game that we have is a blockbuster game in the NFC North with the Detroit Lions going up against the Minnesota Vikings. So first for the Detroit Lions, as I mentioned earlier, the injury to Aiden Hutchinson, suffering a broken tibia, out indefinitely. The injury happened while he was sacking Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. A very gruesome injury, and now Detroit, they're trying to fill that void that is definitely going to be missed on the defensive side. Not just on the defensive side, but really from a team leadership side as well. For the Lions, I mean, a blowout performance of the Dallas Cowboys at Jerry World last week in Arlington. Jared Goff was clicking on all cylinders. I really like the running back combination, that thunder and lightning, with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. The wide receivers were on point, especially a former Bronco wide receiver, Tim Patrick. He was very effective. And of course, with Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and company, Sam Laporta looked really good in that game as well. So we've got the Lions going up against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings coming off of the bye week, a much-deserved bye week. In week 5, they beat the New York Jets in the International Series in London. Sam Darnold was shaken up in that game. Aaron Jones had suffered a hip injury. But the Vikings defense really came through in the clutch for the team to take that win over the Jets. So the Vikings return home in what's going to be a great game, I believe, in Minneapolis between the Lions and the Vikings. You've got Jared Goff, you've got Sam Darnold, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs, you've got David Montgomery, you've got Aaron Jones, and you've also got Cam Akers, who returns to the Vikings after the Vikings pulled off a trade with the Houston Texans, which brings Cam back to the Minnesota Vikings while the Texans get draft picks. So this is going to be a blockbuster game, and a lot of great wide receiver play in this game with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. Also, you've got Tim Patrick, tight end play with Sam Laporta, and with the Vikings, I mean, Justin Jefferson. What's not to love about JJ, right? So this is going to be a great game between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. The next game that we have is going to be the Houston Texans going up against the Green Bay Packers. So Houston, a dominating performance over the New England Patriots up in Foxborough, Massachusetts last week. C.J. Stroud doing what C.J. Stroud does best, right? Handle his business, not only on, with his legs, but also throwing the ball as well. Nico Collins on injured reserve, but Tank Dell was very effective in this game. Joe Mixon looked good coming back from the ankle injury that he had. And as for the Green Bay Packers, they had a dominating performance over the Arizona Cardinals as well. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson and company, they look good in that contest as well. And Jordan Love. Jordan Love has looked awesome so far in this early part of the NFL season. Josh Jacobs, he's a nice complimentary back to the team as well. You cannot forget about Josh Jacobs as well. And Jaden Reed has been really good for this roster as well. So Houston, Green Bay, it's going to be a home game at Lambeau Field, one of the best environments, not just in the NFL, but one of the best environments in all of professional sports. You've got quarterback play with C.J. Stroud going up against Jordan Love. The Houston Texans going up against the Green Bay Packers. We have the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the San Francisco 49ers, a rematch of Super Bowl 58. So for Kansas City, they enjoyed a bye week last week, and the week before that, in week 5, a solid performance on Monday Night Football, beating the New Orleans Saints at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. So Kansas City, their identity since it's been the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce era has been about offense. But the last couple of years, it's been about defense. And guys like Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, George Karlaftis, Shamari Connor, just to name a few, those guys have really stepped up to the plate, especially last year and so far this year. And of course, with the Rashee Rice still being out, Isaiah Pacheco still being out, The Chiefs have had to find ways to win. Mahomes has made enough plays to get it done. Travis Kelce's really stepping up his game. Also, the backup tight end Noah Gray has stepped up, and Juju Smith-Schuster has stepped up his play as well. Also, the rookie Xavier Worthy has been a monster speedster in helping the Chiefs get the ball downfield when necessary. And as for the San Francisco 49ers, the 49ers, they got back to old school 49er football, beating the Seattle Seahawks last Thursday night. Brock Purdy doing what Brock Purdy does best, be consistent, making good throws, not turning the ball over. Deebo Samuel getting back to being old Deebo. George Kittle back to being old George Kittle. Kittle still was battling a rib injury in that game last week against the Seahawks, but he still made big plays. Not just Kittle, not just Deebo, but also Brandon Ayuk is making plays as well, and also Jawan Jennings, a nice compliment to that team as well. And also the two-headed monster was huge for the 49ers against the Seahawks last Thursday night. Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerendo played tremendous. So what's going to happen in the Bay Area, specifically in Santa Clara, in this rematch with the Chiefs and the 49ers? I think it's going to come down to two things. Number one, defense, and number two, the quarterbacks with Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy. Who is going to make the most mistakes, and also who's going to make the biggest mistake, especially when it's time to get in that 2-minute drill. Chiefs 49ers, this is going to be one that's I think is going to be definitely worth the hype in the Bay. Sunday Night Football has the New York Jets going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what a week it has been for the New York Jets. The Jets lose a winnable game on Monday night to the Buffalo Bills. 24 hours later, Woody Johnson and Jets management, they pull off the trade with the Las Vegas Raiders to land Davante Adams. So Davante, along with his quarterback Aaron Rodgers, they're back at it again. Just hopefully they can try to make it like it was in the old days in Green Bay. As for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steelers had an impressive win over the Las Vegas Raiders last week. Justin Fields did enough to get the job done, but you know about Pittsburgh, their MO is two things, defense and running the ball. Najee Harris was able to get the running game going for the Steelers. And of course, when Najee got going, also Justin Fields got going as well, making some solid passes, but had 2 rushing touchdowns in this contest. So with the Jets and the Steelers, these are two teams that are certainly polar opposite. And I'll get more into this with my game of the week coming up, going more into detail with the Jets and the Steelers. But the bottom line is this. This has been one heck of a week for the New York Jets, and they would like to silence the critics and the doubters and try to get a victory in Pittsburgh. As for the Steelers, Russell Wilson, it looks like Wilson is on the mend and coming back from the calf injury. He took first team reps during the week. There's a chance, according to head coach Mike Tomlin, that he may start. I don't know if that's the case right now. I think you need to roll with the hot hand, which is Justin Fields, at least until the bye week. But what Wilson can do is that he can get the ball down the field in more possessions than Justin Fields can. Fields can extend plays with his legs. He can run for some yardage. Russell doesn't run as much as he used to, but what he can do, as I stated earlier, he can extend up. He can get the ball downfield to wide receivers like a George Pickens and also to a Pat Freiermuth and company. But this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a wild one on Sunday night. So many storylines with the New York Jets going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Monday Night Football doubleheader. We have the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's start off with the Buccaneers. A wild game in New Orleans last week with the win over the Saints in an NFC South rivalry game. Baker Mayfield had his moments where it was rough, threw a couple of picks, but he withstood the storm. He weathered the storm, I should say. And not only he got it done throwing the ball, but also there were moments where he had to use his legs to give the Bucks a first down and extend the drive. We also saw Bucky Irving do his thing in that game. We also saw Mike Evans and company and Chris Godwin as well do his thing in that game as well. So while the Buccaneers were having a wild game with the Saints, the Baltimore Ravens, they won the Battle of the Beltway, beating the Washington Commanders. Lamar was going to be Lamar. He was going to do his thing. But Derrick Henry really has been the X factor really in all of the NFL this year. Kind of like how Saquon Barkley has been the security blanket for the Eagles. Derrick Henry really hasn't just been a security blanket for the Ravens offense. He's been the X factor and he's been the engine. And Derrick Henry just had another classic performance. He put on a master class in running the football. So we've got Baltimore and Tampa Bay. Tampa is really going to be several storylines in this. The first, of course, is going to be the quarterback play. Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield. Also, is going to be Tampa Bay's defense. Can they contain Lamar's athletic ability as well as neutralizing Derrick Henry? And Baltimore's defense, they always come ready to play. Can Baltimore's defense really put a lockdown on not only Mike Evans, but also Chris Godwin and the running game as well? So it should be an interesting game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we have the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Arizona Cardinals. So for the Chargers, they held on last week by beating their division rival in the AFC West, the Denver Broncos. Justin Herbert slowly getting back to being the Justin Herbert we've loved for quite some time. Issues with his ankle. Seems to be getting back to his old self. Justin also can't forget about J.K. Dobbins. Played very well in the win against the Broncos. And also, too, the Arizona Cardinals embarrassed last week by the Green Bay Packers. Wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. got hurt in that game. Kyler Murray didn't play well. We'll see what happens down in the desert with the Chargers and the Cardinals. There was so much expectations for the Cardinals this year. The expectations extremely high. I don't know if the expectations are going to continue to be high in terms of the Harrison injury and what's going on with Kyler Murray, but the Chargers slowly getting back to Charger football, slowly getting back to Justin Herbert, I should say, is slowly getting back to his self, coming back from that ankle injury, and he's starting to get more and more confident. Especially he showed more of that confidence in the win against the Denver Broncos. So it should be a solid game in the desert in Arizona with the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Arizona Cardinals. All right, now it's time for my game of the week. My game of the week is going to be the New York Jets versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the New York Jets made a big move during the week, finalizing a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders in landing wide receiver Davante Adams. So it's official. Davante is now a New York Jet. So after almost 2 years of his buddy Aaron Rodgers recruiting him to come to New York and play for the green and white, well, it's official. It's here now. And Davante, he's been at practice, and he will play in the game against the Steelers after coming off of a hamstring injury. The New York Jets, I feel, will benefit from the presence of Davante Adams. Garrett Wilson, it takes pressure off of him because he won't be the guy that will have defenders constantly double covering him, or in most cases triple covering him. That will take pressure off of him. That'll take pressure off of Allen Lazard, who, by the way, is another ex-Packer joining Aaron and Davante as well. That takes pressure off of him. That takes pressure off of Tyler Conklin. Also, Dow takes some pressure off the running game as well with Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. So the Jets, with this whirlwind of almost 2 weeks of the firing of head coach Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, comes in as the interim head coach. Then Nathaniel Hackett, no longer the play caller. In comes Todd Dowling. He'll do the play calling. Hackett remains the offensive coordinator. And then to bring Davante Adams in the trade this week, all the pressure is now on Aaron Rodgers to deliver. Not just with Aaron, but Davante as well. And they will be put to the test in this against a team that does not care about scoring 30, 40, 50, 60 points. They are a team that's built for power and strength, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, they've got running game with Najee Harris. The quarterback situation, I don't know what's going to happen in this game, if Russell Wilson is going to start or they may roll with Justin Fields, but regardless of the quarterback situation, it's going to be about the defense. Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and company. Oh, and don't forget about a guy by the name of TJ Watt. I mean, a guy who is just stepping into his prime and is just disrupting offensive linemen and giving quarterbacks fits. And I think it's going to come down to the Jets offense versus Pittsburgh's defense. Will Aaron be able to connect with Davante on those back shoulder throws like they did together in Green Bay? Will the Jets be able to run the ball and get a nice mix of Brees Hall and Braylon Allen? Or will this just be an experiment that the Jets, I won't say a failed experiment, but an experiment that's on the verge of collapsing? We won't know, but I know one thing is it's always a rocking crowd in Pittsburgh at that stadium, and the terrible towels are going to be out and about for this contest on Sunday Night Football. The New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers, my game of the week. All right, before we get on out of here, I want to give you my picks on who I think will win Week 7's most important games. Thursday Night Football, the Denver Broncos versus the New Orleans Saints. It's going to be a very tight game, but I like Denver to win. The NFL International Series in London between the New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like Jacksonville to win. The Detroit Lions versus the Minnesota Vikings. Going to be a tough game, but I like Minnesota to win. The Houston Texans go up against the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be a ferocious game with C.J. Stroud going up against Jordan Love, but I like Green Bay to win. The Super Bowl rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I like the 49ers to win in a close one. Sunday Night Football, the New York Jets go up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is going to be a very, very, very close game, but I like the New York Jets to pull it off. Monday Night Football doubleheader, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like Baltimore to win. And the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Arizona Cardinals. I like the Los Angeles Chargers to win. So again, my picks are Denver, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Green Bay, San Francisco, New York Jets, Baltimore, Los Angeles Chargers. And that's it. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us for another great edition of the program. Until next time, everybody, I'm Ed Robinson saying so long, you take care, and enjoy the games. Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.